Hello, and welcome to Evolving on Purpose, a show I have created in hopes that I can inspire you to take the deep dive into discovering who you are and what you came here to do. Each week, I will have on individuals to share their unique journey to self-discovery and where their purpose is taking them. I will also do solo episodes to share what I am currently learning, practicing, or even just contemplating. So come on, what are you waiting for? Join me in Evolving on Purpose. Hello and welcome. Today I have Ashley Carlotta. She is the founder of Better Health by Accountability. She is an accountability coach and helps others stay accountable in reaching their goals. So we're going to talk a lot about accountability today. I'm super, super excited about that. Just to introduce Ashley's design, she's a 4-6 manifesting generator. We all know manifesting generators. They need lots of different stimulation, lots of avenues of creativity. And that 4-6 is kind of the influencer, right? They're here to really show and role model for us, bring the right networks and show us what their purpose is. And with that purpose, she is the cross of consciousness, which is all about finding logical solutions for like what somebody is going through. So with her experience, she's finding logical solutions. And then people that are going through the same experiences are coming to her to help them with this logical way of navigating, which accountability, empowerment, all of these things are really, really strong in her chart. And so she's living her design. She's also a Sagittarius sun, fiery sun, always looking for how far can we take this, really enlivening people so that they can get excited about whatever she's sharing. Moon in Taurus, really grounded in what is, what's here, what's now. And then that Virgo rising, which Virgo rising is always a really nice thing to have, to kind of keep accountable, moving the ball, making sure the list is made and everything's moving forward. That Virgo keeps it going. So yeah, welcome to the show, Ashley.
Thank you for having me, Angela. I feel like you were just like describing me to a T. That was crazy and cool at the same time.
Yes, it's always so fun to kind of highlight what you're really good at. Maybe somebody else has these characteristics and they can see a new way to put them forth, or maybe they don't have these characteristics and they can see in you why they need somebody with these characteristics to help them out.
Right.
Yeah. So I just love to kind of hear how you got started in what you're doing. Like, where did you come from? Obviously, when we get somewhere, we always maybe been in the opposite place or had some struggles. So we'd just love to hear all about how you got to where you are.
Yes. I could have never told you that I was going to become a health coach and a fitness coach. Like that was never something that I had like put on my list of what I want to be when I grow up. I actually, starting at the age of 6, I had body image issues. I had to be in a little Nutcracker show. And I remember we had to wear tights and a leotard. That was the dress code. And I was crying to my mom. I knew I looked differently. I wasn't like severely overweight, but enough to where like it was noticeable for me. I was very uncomfortable. And so just through the peaks and valleys of teenage life, in my 20s, I was always dieting. Dieting was always something that was on my mind. I was either trying to be really good or I was being really bad. And I say that in quotes because bad in my mind, misbehaving, overeating, all of that. So I actually went into accounting. I did accounting and taxes for 12 years, was never really fulfilled there. It was something that I was good at. I could do. I was bored a lot of the time. I would take these personality tests that said that based on my personality, I should be like some kind of a coach or a life coach. And I was living in California at the time. I had zero flexibility to be like, I'm going to like start a business. You know what I mean? Like, so that was just like, well, I guess this is what I'm doing. Well, fast forward, I moved to Texas. And so I did have a little bit more flexibility there, but I was a stay-at-home mom for a few years. And after I had my third child, I was having, again, a really hard time losing the weight. But after my second child, I had actually figured out how to do it in a sustainable way to where I didn't feel like I was restricting for the first time in my life. So after I had my third, I knew what I needed to do to get back to like kind of that jean size or whatever that I felt comfortable in. But for me, what was missing was the accountability. Okay. So it was like every Monday would come and I'd be like, okay, I'm going to do really, really, really good. And then I would for like 3 days. And then there'd be like a girls' night out, or we'd go on a date night, or there'd be a party or a barbecue. And I would just blow it every time. So I decided to show my progress on Instagram. At first, I had a private account and I was just like, all right, friends, I am posting what I'm eating. I'm posting my workouts, my water that I'm drinking, stuff like that. It was super casual. I was weighing in on Wednesdays. So that really held me accountable because I knew people were watching me. There was eyes on me, right? And I never thought that I would do that. I even posted like my before pictures. Anyway, with that said, people started asking me, what are you doing? Maybe you could help me. What diet are you on? What workout plan are you doing? And I was like, honestly, I'm just doing baby steps to get through my days. But I had 3 kids at the time, and so it was just what I was doing most of the time that mattered. I was fueling my body. I was not restricting. And for me, it was more about getting tone and building muscle this time instead of just all about the weight loss and a number on the scale. And so I made my Instagram account public, started testing it out a little bit. And before you know it, I started charging for it. And here I am almost 4 years later and grew a business. And I am so passionate about it because for so long in my life, I didn't like my body. I was always just disappointed in my choices. I was always going back and forth and stuff. So I get to empower other women to fuel their body well and do it in a way that doesn't feel like they're restricting so that they can maintain it after, they're working with me, or they can totally do it on their own. So lots of guidance I give on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of that. And that's where I got. And I just recently became a fitness coach also at Orange Theory Fitness, which is it's near and dear to my heart because that really helped me tone up and stuff. And so, yeah, I'm living it up right now. So I'm in a good spot.
That's amazing. That's super huge too for a Taurus moon. Like the moon is kind of our emotional well-being and things like that. And the Taurus moon loves food, right? Like my husband has a Taurus moon. If, food is made and on the table and it's like really, like creamy and delicious, and he's got his chocolate and all those things, like he's a really happy camper. And so he struggles too when he decides he's going to diet. It's like, well, I don't want to restrict what I like. And so it's like finding the way to still kind of feed that and enjoy food, but doing it in like a healthier, more sustainable way. So I love that you've found that out because the Taurus, I know for sure that you love food. So you're not about like, not getting to have that restaurant meal that you really like, or not getting to have some of those things that you really like. So how do you start to take baby steps when you're changing your lifestyle?
Yeah. And you hit the nail on the head there. I, as a Sagittarius, I've always been somebody who needs a lot of freedom. So if somebody tells me not to do something or not to eat something and stick to like a strict, like Whole30 or paleo or keto, there's something in my mind that already wants to like rebel against that. Right. And so my mom used to always say growing up, like, everything in moderation, just have everything in moderation. And I would roll my eyes at her because I didn't know what that was like. It was either I was all in. Well, I mean, Thanksgiving's coming up. We'll talk about that, for example. It's like, I don't want to miss out on like all the things. So I'm just going to go crazy, eat everything. And then I would end up feeling like, oh my God, you totally blew it. Like, how do you get over this?
Yeah.
And so for me, what really helped in the beginning of my journey was to start counting my macros. Now that doesn't work for everybody. And I actually don't do that with all of my clients, but for me, that was very educational because in the past, I would only count my calories and it was very much like, okay. And then I would restrict as much as I could in the morning. And, before even intermittent fasting was a thing, which I totally don't agree with, and then it was really hard. Then because I would try to like have all my calories at the end and it didn't matter. It could have been like a pizza or anything. But this way was like, no, what are you adding in? You're adding in a little bit of fruit, more fruit than you would, some more vegetables, right? So you get more of the food volume so that I didn't feel like I was hungry. Because as soon as I get hungry, and I'm sure women all over the world, it's game over, right? Then the cravings hit and all of that. I also had to start making my meals like super simple. And with learning about macros, and that's something that I teach my clients. It's like, okay, well, let's think of it as like a little puzzle. There's 3 components. What protein am I going to have? What healthy whole grain carb am I going to have? We're talking about dinner, for example. And then like, what vegetables am I going to add to that? And so as soon as I could like break it down into small attainable steps and be like, okay, I'm going to make burgers tonight. Right. And so I could decide like, if I had had like a lot of carbs earlier in the day, then okay, maybe I would skip the bun. But if I hadn't, then I want to have a bun with that burger, and maybe some roasted potatoes on the side and make some asparagus with that or some green beans, like just really making it easy and being able to eat enough to where I just don't feel hangry, because that's when I want the chocolate. That's when I want the 3rd glass of wine and whatever that looks like. And learning how to also make your plate when you're in social situations, because generally, right, there's appetizers, charcuterie boards, whatever, and it's all over the table. And so it's really easy to just stand there and keep going and keep getting another chip with queso and whatever. And so if you portion it out and you actually think about what you're eating and you're enjoying the flavors and you're focusing on the company and not just how much food you can stuff in your mouth, that was a game changer for me. And this is an ongoing process. It's not something that you're just like, it does get easier, but it's something that you have to continually think about. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, is they think I'm going to be really good for 30 days. And then the 30 days is over and you're stuck right back where you were and you go back to your old habits. And so building small attainable habits is so important. With working out, for example, a lot of people think, okay, well, I'm going to get in 4-hour workouts this week. And then they miss maybe like the second one they had planned for the week. And then they're like, okay, well, I'll start again next week. And with my clients, it's like, no, like if you only have a window of like 10 or 15 minutes, let's do something. Let's get outside and go for a walk. I'm going to assign you a 15-minute, workout arm video to do, like something to where you can feel good. Like, check, I did something, and maybe it wasn't everything that I wanted to accomplish for the day, but you can find the positives in every situation. Maybe you drank a little bit more water than you used to that day. And then that made it to where you didn't feel like you had to crash and have more coffee and all the things in the afternoon, grabbing the chip bag. So that's what we work on, is small attainable things. And we chip away at that. And my program is never about a race. Like if somebody wants to lose 30 pounds and they sign up for my 12-week program, it's not like, it's go time, let's go. It's really not. Like I actually want you to do it slower than you think it would gonna go. So this is ingrained in you.
Yeah.
If that makes
sense.
And
making choices that you can stick to instead of the yo-yo of, I only have to do it this long and then I can gain it all back, which we know is exactly what happens when we do something really restricted. One thing I want to go back to, because I heard you say you do not agree with intermittent fasting. And I love that in a lot of ways. So my husband intermittent fasts and he does a really, really good job of it. I cannot. I think that there's 2 reasons why. One, in human design, you have a left arrow. I have a left arrow. If you pull your chart and you see that top left arrow is facing left, that means that your brain needs to be fed. It needs to be fed from the time you get up till the time you go to bed, kind of. And that doesn't mean we can't have a smaller window than that, but it's like a continuous, it needs fuel, right? And so if you're fueling it correctly with like meals that slowly break down, then you can eat maybe 3 stable meals and feel really good throughout the day, right? But the brain is always on. So it grabs so much fuel. So anytime I tried to intermittent fast with my left arrow, I would feel great running on cortisol for so many hours. And then all of a sudden I would crash. I couldn't think. I'm grabbing anything that I can to like eat something so that I can survive. I've never felt good on an intermittent fast. Now, sometimes I think women should probably not intermittent fast just because, especially at a certain age, hormones, having protein first thing in the morning is going to really ground you, right? It's going to allow your hormones to feel really good. But some people with that right arrow, so if we have a right arrow in human design, it means we're supposed to eat when we're hungry. And sometimes that means large times where we're not eating and large times where we are eating, right? Like it's a very flowing because your mind is sometimes not consuming. And I think that would be a lovely concept. You have all left arrows, so you're always on, right? It's a very like, my best friend has all left arrows too. It's like very, I'm on, I'm centered, I'm focused, and I'm like tunnel vision. Wherever I'm looking is tunnel vision. But some people have more, you can even see it when you see them, right? You're like, are they paying attention? Are they even here? Right? They have, like more, it's pulling in lots of information, but it's not funneling so that they can kind of eat more casually, right? That's like two things that I look at is human design for that left arrow or right arrow. And then, what age are we as women? How are hormones doing? How do we settle those down? So yeah, what do you think about all of that?
Oh, the hormones. Aren't they a beautiful thing? Yes. So I have had several clients who are men who love intermittent fasting, and it actually really does seem to work for them. Now,
Yeah.
I know there are women listening, they do it, it's good. It's whatever. Okay, I'm happy for you. However, most of the clients, if not all of the clients that I work with, when they're doing that, they're usually in a restriction mentality, right?
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening a lot of times is women are under eating because then they're not eating lunch until 12. A lot of times they're not even having like a proper fueling snack and they're waiting till dinner. They're having a big dinner and then they go to bed. And so you add up, okay, well, how much did you actually eat today? That's a big reason why they're not building muscle. That's another thing we can go into because a lot of times people are doing just cardio and not building muscle. But yeah, making sure you're getting enough calories throughout the day. And what I share with my clients and what I've found true to me and my coaches who work for me and everything is like, if your metabolism is running efficiently, you should be hungry within 2 hours of waking up. You should want to eat and your body should be craving like that fuel, protein. And again, it doesn't have to just be protein, carbs, fat, making sure that you have a well-balanced meal to set you up for that day. It goes back to breakfast is the best meal of the day, most important meal of the day, but it helps you start to think. A lot of people are getting up and they're just having a cup of coffee. God forbid they haven't even any water and they just wonder why they're not really able to focus efficiently. So I'm not a fan of intermittent fasting. I do think that it can be done in a more logical way. And you could, let's say you aren't hungry in the morning. Okay, fine. Maybe you have your first meal at 11. Well, then you're actually needing to extend those hours a little bit longer then to make sure that you are eating enough. And so people have different schedules and different work schedules and stuff, and that's fine. And we can make it work. But most of the time when people start, it's from a restriction standpoint. Okay, I'm not going to eat until this time because then that will mean that I won't eat those calories throughout that day. And so it's just that cycle of deprivation and thinking that you have to deprive yourself to lose weight and lose fat. And I'm here to tell you, please, I'm going to shake you. You don't have to do that. You can actually feel good and not be hungry throughout the day. So that's my reasoning behind it.
Yeah. I love what you said about muscle too. I was listening to, I think it was Ed Milet the other day. He had his fitness trainer on and she talked about the most important thing for aging, for health, for wellness, for fighting infection. All of it is the amount of muscle, skeletal muscle that you have on your body. If you don't have that skeletal muscle, you're not going to live as long. You're going to age faster. And so then it goes back to protein, right? Especially women that have been restricting themselves they haven't been eating enough protein. But if you center your meals around protein, not only is it incredibly it's satiating, so you feel full, but you're also helping build that muscle. So how much do you talk about, like how much protein people should have?
Yes. Yeah. So it's very personalized, and it differs a little bit as you age and what your activity level is and stuff like that. But for most women and that I work with and stuff, you need to have a minimum of 100 grams of protein a day. And there's so many women that I've talked to in the beginning, and, they'll have like a salad. And I'm like, well, did it have anything in it other than like lettuce and veggies, And no, I was trying to be vegetarian, like stuff. I'm like, you're not having like any protein, and you're running all the time, and you're doing these HIIT workouts, which are all good for you and good for your heart and stuff. But just to what you said, like it prevents so many things as you get older. And the biggest thing that I want to touch on is injuries. How many people do we see walking with like a boot on, or we're sitting all day and it's like you just get up from your computer desk, you weren't even doing anything, but you hurt your leg. Like when we were doing a bunch of squats yesterday at Orange Theory, we're holding like the medicine ball, you're squatting down, sitting on the bench, pushing up through your heels and coming up. I'm like, we're not just doing this for fun, people. We're doing this so you can get off the couch, so you can get on the ground and play with your nieces and nephews and grandkids. And so that you're not like squatting down to go to the bathroom and then you get up and you twisted your knee or you hurt your quad or whatever that is. And so I'm so big on that, primarily just for that reason alone, but so that your bones aren't shrinking as you get older. And it has to just be like this whole encompassing circle of making sure that you're fueling enough, because if you're constantly in this diet restricting calories, your body's just going to like deteriorate away. And I hate to say that, but I don't want that for women. I want your brain too. Your brain needs fuel for thinking, for your memory and all of that. So if anyone's listening, I'm just praying that you will take better care of yourself and not so much worry about what your body stature looks like. Because I promise you that if you are lifting, and you don't have to be bodybuilder status, but if you are lifting at least 2 to 3 days a week for like 20 or 30 minutes, like your body is going to feel more toned, and you actually are going to be more confident when you're doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I love that. So you're 2 to 3 days a week for lifting heavy things.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly.
Yes. And then cardio, another 2 to 3 days a week, or how many times do you recommend?
Yeah. And I mean, it can be combined, right? Like let's say you had 3-hour workouts and you went for a jog and then you came back and you did like some lifting with your dumbbells, right? You could combine those together, or you could take like 3 20-minute walks, like on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Tuesday, Thursday, you do like 2, lifting sessions for 30 minutes. You could meet with a personal trainer. You could do a class at a gym. You could do on the Peloton app. I mean, your options are just so huge. And so a lot of times, again, back to accountability, it's just about actually doing it, having to check in with somebody and make sure that you're actually doing what you say you're going to do, because we all have to-do lists a mile long, and sometimes that just doesn't pop to the priority list. And so I help women make their health a priority, because a lot of times we're taking care of everybody else. And then that just goes to the wayside. And then you're like, oh, why am I so tired? Why do I feel so terrible? Well, that's why.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. So is there anything that you notice come up that gets in people's way? Like, is there's something that you notice a lot that is something that's always getting in people's way?
Well, a huge part of it is mindset. And some people have been in this, we'll call it a rut, for so long that they don't truly think that they can get out of it. They're skeptical to even start a new weight loss program. And I even hate to call it that, right? And a lot of times women will talk to their spouse and say, okay, I'm going to start this program. Well, what's going to be different about that, right? But busy schedules, and we're overscheduled. And so a lot of what I do too is, if people are having trouble making meals at home, packing a lunch, making a breakfast, like we can all go out and go through Starbucks drive-through every now and then, whatever, that's fine. And I can help you with that. But if you're always too busy to get your workout in or plan a meal. I mean, you can even like do grocery pickup. Like we have everything available to us now. So if you can't even think about that, you're doing too much. And I get it. And I have empathy and I have a heart for people who are juggling all the things. Cause I have some women that I work with who have very hard lives. A lot of times, sometimes they're single moms. They're just trying to literally keep it all together, but you have to plan for it. You have to be thinking ahead a little bit. I would never ask somebody to plan like their entire week's meals because that's not something I would do because, you know, I need freedom to be able to have a little bit of variety here and there. But at least have some stuff in your house to where you're not just like running on empty. And so I help you plan your day, prioritize what you need to do, and also give you grace when you need it too, so that you're not beating yourself up if you miss your workout that day or whatever. It's like, okay, well, where can we fit that in? Or can we do to make maybe have a little bit of self-care throughout the day? Like maybe you just need to like go to bed earlier. Like sleep is huge too. And so if you're constantly running on empty, which a lot of women are when they're coming to me, that is the biggest battle, I think. And not asking for help, right? Like I just had a client who had a revelation yesterday. She was like, you know, I actually think my husband could take my kids to school 2 days a week. And then that would help me to like make some eggs or get a little bit of work done or get my workout in before I actually sit down and do work. And it's just, it's like, it's funny because I'm just so proud of her and the things that sometimes women don't think to ask. Like they just think that they're used to this routine and they do it themselves and they have control and stuff. But maybe you need to ask for a little bit of help so that you can prioritize yourself so you can feel better and be a better mom and wife and whatever that looks like for you. You know, so that is the biggest roadblock, is thinking that you're too busy, which leads to overwhelm, which leads you to do nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know that anytime that you sit down and you think that something is, it's such an issue, but you sit down and like ask the question and get curious, there is always like a really incredible solution, right? Like there is always a solution. We just are sometimes too busy worrying about what's in our way to ask and find a solution that works.
Yeah. And then, you know, I have clients who are like me where we have like FOMO too, right? Like, and they think if they start something like this, they're going to have to give up a lot. And so I try to be like, hold on, no, like you're probably still going to be traveling for your job. You're still going to be taking trips. You're going to be visiting family. You're going to be going out with your girlfriends, whatever that looks like. So let's make this fit into what you're doing now, because I can promise you, you're never going to have like a solid 30 days or a solid 6 weeks where nothing's going on and you clear your schedule. And like, I would never do something like that. So I promise if I can figure out how to live this somewhat of a balanced-ish, good enough life to where I feel good, I'm proud of my choices most of the time, right? I can tell you that anybody can, because it took me a really long time to figure it out. And so I want to make it easy for you.
Yeah. I love that so much. Okay. You mentioned Thanksgiving. So can you give us some tips? I will try to make sure this episode drops before Thanksgiving. Can you try to give us some tips about like, maybe we haven't signed on to a workout routine or a new diet or something, but we don't want to start the holiday season going overboard. Like, what are just some things we could start with right now?
Yes. Okay. I have a lot of things. So let me feel it out here. Okay. So one thing I want to mention is if you are going to exercise on Thanksgiving, you do it not to like save up so you can eat more later. Okay. If you're going to exercise on Thanksgiving, I want you to do it like you would any other day. If you do a turkey trot with your family or you go out for a run, do it because it feels good and because it's good for you, not to save up calories for later. Okay. So that's my number one right there. My number two is you don't have to eat every single thing that's at Thanksgiving. Okay. So before you start eating, look at what's everything that's there available to you and pick your favorites. Most of them are probably pretty decadent, right? I mean, I always tell my mom, like nowadays, now that I'm the annoying health coach in the family, like, hey, could we have like a salad? And like, make sure we have some vegetables. But for the most part, things are pretty decadent. So start with a little bit of each thing that you love, right? And focus mostly on the protein, which in most cases is going to be turkey. Sometimes it's ham or whatever that looks like. Mostly have that on your plate and any vegetables or a fruit salad or anything that you can find, right? Eat slowly. I know it's easy for me to say, focus on the company and the good times. Some people are not going to be having the best time with their families and stuff, right? And so come prepared with maybe like some fun bubbly waters that you like to drink so you can have something in your hand, maybe have some gum for when you have that urge. I know a lot of times emotionally, if something's upsetting or you don't really want to see somebody or whatever, have some strategies so that you're not just going back for more food to comfort yourself. Right. But it's only one day. I mean, yes, a lot of us are going to have leftovers, but it's only one day. So I don't want anybody to like freak out about it, but it doesn't need to be a day where you're gorging yourself, and just completely overdoing it and then feeling like crap. I know a lot of people think it's fun to get full and then put on their sweatpants and sit on the couch, and like, that's fine. But I just don't think that that's the right mentality going into it. Fuel yourself like you would for any other meal. And then if you're still hungry, have a little bit more, but start with just a moderate amount on your plate. Does that kind of help?
Yeah. No, I think that's great. I always make sure to bring something that I know that is like really healthy and vegetable forward and really flavorful. So I'll try to find like a really fun, like tahini dressing salad that's like, it's like really decadent. You buy maybe the cranberries and the nuts and all of the things to go in it. So you're like, wow, this isn't just a salad. It's like one that I wouldn't take the time to maybe make all the time. So that's what I always make, is like some kind of big salad. And then I always fill up on the turkey first and then go back and have maybe a little bit of pie or something. We're gluten-free in my house, so we can't always eat most of the things anyway. So we bring that thing that will really kind of excite us. And then usually we try to get a walk in after, because that really, it helps digest. And then it gets you out of the room with all of the food. So I'll just ask everybody, like, who wants to go on a walk if it's nice enough wherever you are. But that's something that always helps too, because then once you are done walking, you don't really want to eat more food because you're full, and then you went on a walk and you just feel really good.
Yeah, no, that's great. And like my family in the past have gone to like play tennis. We'll like go play tennis or go play pickleball or something like that is fun too. And then also like depending on when you eat, some people eat at like 12 or 1. My family doesn't eat until like 5. We have it kind of like as a traditional dinner. So if that's the case for you, like don't not eat up until that. Like have a protein shake for breakfast, or, you know what I mean? Like have a lunch. Like, again, don't save up for it. That backfires every single time, because by then you're hangry, your brain's not working, and you're just going to go to town on whatever appetizers are out. But enjoy your Thanksgiving. Enjoy the food. I do believe that we were meant to enjoy food. God created food, but he didn't create it for us to overeat and all of us to be overweight. And many of us are in the United States. And I'm trying to help and change that, because I want us to feel good, and enjoy things in a moderate way, in a way that feels good. We're making good choices. We're being disciplined. Yet there's room for fun. There has to be room for fun.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Ashley, this has been so much fun. Can you tell us about like what it looks like to work with you, and then how people can find you?
Sure. Okay. So I have 2 different durations of my program. It's either 6 weeks or 12 weeks. And I talk about that like on a connect call and stuff. My clients are sending me pictures of what they're eating throughout the day. Now, that's not to be obsessive, but what that does is it really helps you to pause and think about, okay, I'm going to show my coach this. And so in the beginning, it becomes like the client is like wanting to present and like please the coach, but they quickly realize that they're actually pleasing themselves. And they're learning about this. Right. And so I will help them like Okay, you should add a little bit here, take a little bit out here. Okay, next time, this is maybe like the dressing that you could buy when you put it on your grocery list. Okay, you're going to Chick-fil-A. Awesome. Here's 3 of my top tips that I would give you when you go, like just integrating it into your life so that it doesn't feel hard, a little bit of hand holding, right? In the beginning. And then clients that get on a roll, they're feeling great. On Wednesdays, we weigh in, we take your measurements. If you did do the fitness component of accountability as well, it's very personalized. Some people are already at gyms that they're not using, and some are doing nothing. And so I will assign them workouts to do throughout the week based on their availability, check in with them, make sure they're getting that done. All my clients will have a water goal that they have to hit at the end of the day. And so again, it's just, they're checking in. They know I'm going to ask them, hey, how'd that lunch go with your friend? Did you still get the salmon salad that you said you're going to did? Or did y'all share nachos and beer, stuff like that. So, it's a companionship. I become friends with like a lot of my clients because food is like a big part of our daily life, oftentimes, oh no, I didn't make that because my husband and I were in a fight, and so like the calls that we have too, I'm not a therapist by any means, and I will say that, but I can just help these women like go through hard stuff and help to prioritize and plan. And if they're like, oh, I have no idea what I'm going to make for dinner tonight. Okay, well, let's think about what you have on hand. Maybe you just make a bean burrito tonight and we call it a day and we're going to do better tomorrow, but avoiding the door dashing all the time and things that people just get in really bad habits. I know during COVID, people were opening up a whole bottle of wine and they were drinking it like nobody's business. And they're wondering, oh, why did I put the COVID-15 on or whatever? So, you can, my website is betterhealthbyaccountability.com. And if you go there, I actually have 3 days of health coaching free that you can sign up for just to kind of get a vibe of how it goes. You can ask questions. But it is fun. And I have like a majillion reviews now, which I'm so grateful for. Cause then that just helps like the Google juice for people to find us and stuff. And I'm very active on Instagram. So I will share like what I'm eating, my workouts, tips, all of that stuff. Yeah.
Perfect. And I will be sure to link all of that in the show notes. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show and for sharing.
Thank you, Angela, for having me. And I hope you have a fantastic Thanksgiving and you take all my tips.
Yes. Everybody connect, enjoy, and yes, love what you're doing, but don't overdo it.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you everybody so much for listening. If today is Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving. If not, you can always take these tips and tricks into any holiday or party. So I hope that you will get a lot out of this episode, no matter when you listen. If there was anything in the human design portion that interested you, like the digestion or taking a deeper look at your arrows, you can always book a reading with me. I do love health readings. We can look at the astrology, we can look at the arrows in human design to how you digest food and information, and just give you more clarity on some of the health challenges or things that you could do to better optimize your unique design. You can always book that reading at evolvingonpurpose.org. Just make sure to note in there that you have an interest in looking at the health side of the design. Thank you, everybody, as always, for being here, and let's keep evolving on purpose.